So it's a little bit of a follow-up to the previous video I made talking about Dragon Ball Legends reveal of Beast, some of its hype-based releases, and what the game might look like going into the future. I came across this tweet sometime after with Epic here talking about the revenue split for Dragon Ball Legends, as you'd imagine, especially in Japan. And remember, one of the points I mentioned was that, Gresh was talking about how the game felt a little dead in Japan, his region. And I would like to start this video off by saying, regardless of what I end up naming this video, regardless of what I end up making making the thumbnail for this video, this is actually going to be a bit of a positive post. I saw a lot of people being very negative, so we are going to read those comments, but then I want to sort of express up front that while I understand the sentiment when you just start looking at numbers in aggregate, there is always a larger story behind numbers. And this idea that, hype doesn't work is definitely contextual, right? I don't want people to think that whenever I say stuff like, oh, they're just going to put out another Fusion, another Beast, it's not going to sell. That's not what that means. What I mean is Dokkan and Legends and any game with an IP essentially will typically fall back on big names to cover up patches in quality. Look at Worldwide Download Celebration, right? The Worldwide Download Celebration had a lot of fun, great characters. People love Broly. Broly's the second most popular villain in Dragon Ball. Maybe I could argue, at least at some stretches of time, he could be the first. It would be him or Frieza, right? And the reason I say that is the characters were so good, and it didn't fix the fact that Global was completely missing content because the stages were all bad. So even though it's a PvE game, and people always say you can't compare lazy releases and so on and so forth to that in a PvP game, you really can. Because no matter what, tired designs are tired designs. And in this case, it was the PvE content. And in this case with Legends, it doesn't seem to be the it doesn't seem to be the units so much as the philosophy behind that. So let's take a look. We can see in 2018, their first year, this makes a good amount of sense, right? You're a gacha starting out. I'd say this is pretty positive revenue stream. Dragon Ball Legends and Dokkan allegedly make up a really big sum of Toei and Shueisha's money. So another 10 billion here, up 3 billion, down 5, which is surprising. Something probably really big happened. This one's been a great year. 2021 is 5, so stabilized. 2022, there's a bit of a bounce back. 2023, I would say this is pretty reliable. Anime might have been there might have been an anime release. This was the year they got Beast, right? Again, these 3 years in a row, right? So makes sense. And then 2024 is where we're at currently with the end of the year, and this kicked up quite a bit of controversy. So we'll talk about why that happened, right? So Fringe from having its worst year in the game's history, even with Beast Gohan, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, Vegito Blue, Super Vegito. The market for the game in Japan isn't large, but this is embarrassingly bad for a game that spams the most hype units. And Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta as well. The only hype unit they haven't used is MUI, yet they still fell short of every year but one, which it beat by 0.1. And if y'all are wondering about DBL's biggest earners performance, it's still a good 3 to 5 million down from both quarter 2 and quarter 3. The game sales are just worse, generally simple. And as you imagine, this kicked up a bit of negativity because people are like, come on, it's been declining the JP side, but Global still makes a whole bunch and it's very stable. Overall, shame didn't hit TG this fest at all. What's your response? Even US, Legends Fest biggest market by far is facing a 5% or more decrease. It's not just JP that's suffering, but Globie as a whole. You can come down here. He's got people, memeing a bit. Hell, by 29. Can we guess why that is? You just look around. People talking about end of service. Yeah, no, really. 80% of decrease in JP this year with huge characters like G4 Beast, VBSV. It's tough to come up every time with new animations. All the hype characters have already shown up. It sounds the end in my opinion. So the reason I want to say that I would not worry too bad, and I'm going to switch over here just to look at the charts, is that you got to remember, I play a PvP gacha. I play a bunch of fighting games. I play a bunch of PvE games. You know, we're not just singular here, so we got some all kinds of different perspectives. I don't think this is as big as a problem as the consensus might be from these posts, because one thing that I took from 2023, the worst feeling year in Dokkan, is that when you show the developers that you are not willing to spend, that's when we get changes. By the end of 2023, do you know how much bitching I saw? Do you know how much I'm deleting my account I saw? Do you know how much I'm selling my account I saw? Do you know how much, tweets saying I'm never coming back to Dokkan into them playing Dokkan the day after I saw? And now look at us, greatest year in Dokkan ever. Dokkan Battle 2 animations, UI revisions. We've got genuine attempts to make the quality of life better. We've got 10th year coming up with some of the bigger characters on market. We have some of the best character representation in all of Dokkan this year. It's one of those things where ultimately these peaks and valleys aren't forever. It's just that when you have a PvP game, they're much more dire in the immediate, and that's because people need to actually feel incentivized, feel rewarded for getting on and playing a game where you play against another player. That's a big issue. So as we look here, we got the top 5 games performance in the US for quarter 2 of 2023, which again, 2023 was not a great year for them. So Legends is much bigger in the US and is DBL's biggest market. The gap is even bigger with quarter 2 Legends anniversary of 2023, making more than Q2 of 2024. Q3 of 2023 for Legends also made more than Q3 of 2024 for Legends. Dokkan, on the other hand, made more from worldwide download this year than 2023. And this is kind of the interesting thing. It's hard to swallow. If you're not someone, sorry, excuse me, had a little tickle in my throat. If you're not someone who is attached to Legends by the fucking veins, if you're someone who maybe is looking for a break from Legends, I would very much suggest getting into some Dokkan right now. And 10th anniversary is coming up. Overhauls are massive. The Easy Age just went live, so you can actually go farm those stones you might be missing. It's a great time to take a break. Maybe just do your dailies on Legends. It's a great time to get into Dokkan, right? I think that what this really just shows me is that Legends, which I felt I felt like they had a pretty solid year last year. I felt like I heard a lot of positivity. Maybe the MUI Goku launch felt a little sketchy, but I remember the huge excitement going into Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. It feels like Legends prepared worse for the release of Daima than Dokkan did, though. Does that make sense? Because if you look at all of the Majin buffs over the year, if you look at the way Dokkan did it, much more solid. Sure, there were a lot of Gohans. Sure, there were a lot of Majin Easy A's from the saga, but then they put these characters who weren't in the tag, they put them in there, like the Brat duo. They did Family Kamehameha got added to Majin Buu. They really made a concerted effort to increase the quality of life and playability of that team, so it felt more rewarding, more fun to. They also packed in great animations, and as a lot of people say, it is a PvE game, so the burden of content is much more on the person to enjoy it as a sandbox experience than it is for someone to want to get on and grind PvP, which is it's a tough battlefield to sort of divvy time up for. I mean, look at Sparking Zero. Early on, I said Sparking Zero has these problems. A bunch of people said Sparking Zero's peak, it's selling more than fighting games. I said we can't compare it to fighting games because it's not one. Fast forward a month, all these players leave, all the problems come out, and suddenly it's just a community problem, it's not a game problem. Fast forward a few more months, suddenly there's a big patch to fix these problems that I called week 1. I saw some of these issues pop up. And now it's, Sparking Zero's so back, they fixed all the problems. And it's like, what happened to, it has no problems, it's just a community issue. You know what I mean? So trying to lobby for your personal time and enjoyment when it comes to PvP games is very difficult. And another thing I've seen is people being like, well, you're hating. And it's just, I will say the tone is a little condescending, but from these replies, but Yeah, it's just it's an issue where I said it before and people said it's not about that. These characters will always sell, and it's like, well, they're selling less and less. So at some point, you have to look at me when I say it is going to become a question of, is the game fun? Because I can only see motherfuckers show up with white and gold hair so many times. The game has to actually be fun too, right? And one of the other things I saw is at Cine here, they said that they were talking about Dokkan Legends having to compete with Pokemon for top grossing. And if you think this shit is ever happening again, if you think that your game is breaking through Pokemon ever again, hey, big dog, let me tell y'all, stop judging things by grossing, because we are getting packed the fuck up if it's a question of, are we beating Pokemon TCG, all right? So let's just stop that right now. But lastly, the other thing that I noted as well is this feels like an internal issue. I think Goresh was right on the money a few weeks ago when he said that there might be some internal issues going on within the Legends team. As much as we like to clown on them for their development decisions, there's almost no other explanation for how poorly this celebration has been handled so far. I think this sentiment is shared almost universally amongst the player base. And if we're taking that information and we're kind of correlating it to the Majin Buu constant buffing that also felt like really heavy-handed in meta limiting, I think we sort of see the picture of like Shueisha, Toei, or whoever is handling Daima shows up and says, hey, we need promo. We need you to release these. So you need to stop working on what you're working on. We need to release these. We need to promo this. And they go, okay, boss. You know what I mean? And I think that's where I'll leave it off. If you're feeling bad about Legends, don't feel too bad, man. I think it's fine. I think that from these down periods is where we typically see developers, especially in the gacha space, get to work. And what I would like to see from this, if I'm my most hopeful, is we need an easier barrier of entry. We need these bad banners to go away, because if you want people to spend money, you need to start giving people a reason to actually spend and summon. And right now, Legends doesn't do that. Dokkan got this right. Dokkan got this right. Do you hear me? 2023 Dokkan was terrible. In 2024, they said we're back. I think Legends can do it too. I think Big Toshi can do it too. I know he's got 7 more Gohans in him. You know, he's sitting around the couch and all the Gohans are standing behind him looking oiled up. Like, I think he's got it. Subscribe to join the club. Like if you like the video. I've been Lone. We all gonna make it. Peace.